Tendulkar. With me is Prashant Nair. For our markets, there has been a bit of a recovery from the lows of the day. At one point of time, the Sensex was down close to about 300 points. We're off the session lows there. Even the mid-cap index is now down with a cut of about 0.5%, a little better than what we were, say, about an hour ago. And Indiabulls group stocks, whether it's Indiabulls Real Estate or Indiabulls Housing Finance, are putting in that relief rally. So now in the green with gains of close to about 7-8% now on Indiabulls Housing Finance. Prashant, we count one day relief at a time. Yesterday or day before, it was Diwan Housing which made that payment within that cure period, avoided the default. Today it's that Indiabulls Housing Finance and that whole, whether they've siphoned it off, at least for now the writ petition is out. So one day, relief at a time for some of these group companies.
Absolutely. But this entire episode and no point mincing words, is just beyond bizarre, right? I mean, you get a PIL and that knocks off 200 rupees basically off the stock. I mean, that's serious damage. And then today we have this news that the PIL has been withdrawn. And I mean, the reasons given about I think signatures were used wrongly on some signatures were falsely put on that PIL, and that they were, there was mischief and things like that. I mean, we of course spoke with the Indiabulls management as well. And of course, they said that, well, we told you so, and this was mischievous and pure blackmail.
On the weekend, right? When did this news come to surface?
The PIL, I think it came on Monday. I think it came on Monday.
Okay.
Because the big reaction happened on
Tuesday. So it happened on Monday. So it still took the petitioner about 2 days. If it happened on Monday, today's Thursday. So, to come out and say that, well, that wasn't my signature.
Or maybe that was my signature, but it was,
it was wrongly put.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just bizarre.
It is bizarre, absolutely. No other way to describe it. The stock is up 8%. Remember, at about 620 rupees. I mean, if you believe that they have a solid business, underlying business, consumer, retail business, and the fact that this particular and other issues with regards to exposure to troubled real estate groups, etc., are limited. The stock was coming to you at about 6 PE. That is cheap. So this was at about 600 rupees, which was the recent low in this episode. By the way, I think today's low was about 588 or so. So, it cracked big time, and it is up almost a full 100 rupees from that point in trade right now. So, that is what news flow does. Just completely whips stocks around. Look at Indiabulls Real Estate as well. That is also starting to perk up. It's up 6%. Let's look at Lakshmi Vilas as well, which also I think got beaten down for 2 days now, and see if there is some bounce which has come through. Yeah, there is a big 7% plus bounce coming in on Lakshmi Vilas as well. I think it was down 10%, maybe I think 10% plus in trade yesterday. So there is that bounce. And of course, I think, Rima, we should also just quickly refer to and read out the Rana Kapoor tweets which are coming through. That stock has also come up, but just a little bit from the lows.
Absolutely. So as our colleague Sonia was also saying, that I am not some media, his tweet, okay, Rana Kapoor's tweet, some media reports have suggested, and I'm coming back to the board, in spite of my unequivocal denial to them, I reiterate that I have the fullest confidence and conviction in the management under Shri Ravneet Gill's leadership and the board of directors. So that is, Yes Bank is, I think, off about 5% from.
And there is a bit about some Hanumanian.
Okay, so Yes Bank is an embodiment of Indian professional entrepreneurship, and the ongoing Hanumanian efforts will overcome this transitional phase. I think now the big question is, at what price does a QIP take place? Because it's seen such a sharp fall. So now it will entail a huge dilution for Yes Bank to go ahead and raise the QIP money. I think
when Mr. Ravneet Gill was with us last, he had said that there is enough capital out there. But as you said, the question is at what price will it come in now? But they need the capital. I think that's the first big stop or the hurdle to cross, really, before we talk about anything else. And if you read, of course, there is the UBS note which caused bulk of the damage. But if you read others as well, like Macquarie came out with a note with Yes. The analyst there was pointing to the fact that these resignations could sort of raise doubts about whether actually they'd be able to raise capital or not, and whether serious large private equity investors would be interested with so much uncertainty. So they need to raise capital first and foremost before we sort of start to look at Yes Bank once again. But that's Indiabulls Housing and Yes Bank for you. The market is down 50 points still. It's off the lows by a little bit. Okay, I think we got Ashwini with us. So let's quickly bring him in. Ashwini, good afternoon. Thanks very much for joining in. Your thoughts on what you're seeing on your screens?
Well, first thing is that Indiabulls housing has turned exactly from 600, 620. So that was the expectation. Some bit of sorting out is likely to happen there. Since morning, there's been strong selling in terms of banks and financials, and now closer to 11,820, things have started to turn around. My sense is that there will be more short covering, and chances are that several stocks are likely to close at the high point of the day, and the range of 11,820 to about 12,000 is likely to sustain for the day. Having said that, individual stocks, Coal India is a sell with a stop of 258, target of 240. Maruti is a sell with a stop of 6850, target of 6700. And Infosys is a buy with a stop of 740, target of 765.
Okay. Ashwini, thank you very much for joining in. Let's talk about crude prices because they spiked close to about 3% earlier on the back of reports of a tanker explosion in the Gulf of Oman. Peter McGuire, the CEO of XM Australia, joins us on the phone line. Peter, afternoon. There was a sudden spike that we saw in Brent crude. It was below the $60 per barrel mark. Now, as we speak, almost hugging that $62 per barrel mark. What is the political ramification of this development, the attack on oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman, and how worried should we be? Will it have a longer-term impact on crude prices?
Well, good afternoon, or good morning, I should say. Thanks for inviting me on the show. Look, there's no doubt that it's certainly spiked. It's up the best part of 3%, or close to it for Brent and WTI. It's, attacks in the Strait of Hormuz certainly are a big-ticket item on the world stage as far as crude. It's too early in the sense of, due to this activity, to really get some sort of appreciation of what geopolitical concerns and what can actually fall out of this. But it's certainly not a sign that the crude market enjoys. And if it's as serious as what we possibly are living through, then it's going to add, I'd say, a few more dollars to the price of crude in the short term.
Mm-hmm. Peter, but is the sort of even technically and otherwise, fundamentally as well, we were talking with somebody from S&P Platts who was saying that demand issues kind of overwhelm any supply tightness that there may be in the market. Now, of course, I mean, if a significant amount of output is taken out, that is a different sort of that changes the equation meaningfully. But if not, do you believe that this will be a short-lived bounce, or tough to say?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, we all understand what the position is on the global crude front. We've got an OPEC meeting in the best part of 2 weeks' time in Vienna. I'm heading over to that, and I'll actually be in Abu Dhabi on Monday. So, that's the real, that UAE region. That's where this particular attack took place, just off the coast there. So, what happens between now and, over the next matter of days, crude could be up, another couple of dollars if it really is as serious as what is suggested. And it's just a work in progress to really appreciate the severity of it. It's only early. It's up nearly, as I said, it's up nearly 3% or $1.40 on WTI. What happens in New York tonight, and are there any further attacks over the next matter of days? So, there's a lot of moving parts to this, and it could, as I said, it could ratchet up a number of dollars from here. We just don't know the severity of it.
Okay, so we await for this development to play out. But of course, for now, there is that panic reaction taking place. But Peter, this development aside, how are you assessing the demand-supply dynamic in the crude prices? Prashant spoke about the demand weakness, etc. Even the U.S. stockpile data that we got overnight, it showed that the inventory buildup was more than what the market was expecting. So what is your longer-term picture on crude prices, WTI as well as Brent?
Well, that's and that's so fascinating. I mean, it's only, putting our mind back 24 hours, and we had, down at the lows of, in the last 5 months. So, it's certainly had a big correction versus the best part of a month ago, WTI and Brent. They're well off from those numbers that we were experiencing, down nearly 20%. So everything was in pretty much a free fall over the last month. Then it's bounced over the last matter of hours due to this attack or supposed attack in the Strait of Hormuz. So there was structural weakness there, and, inventory levels and so on were really driving crude to the downside for WTI and Brent. So I would have thought that you would have had Brent possibly underneath that, 50, possibly even hitting 49 as a sell-off. Brent, well, that's a different matter. You'd probably add, another $7 or $8 to that one to get some sort of headline number. But, we just don't know where it's going to bounce. It really demonstrates to the market that there's plenty of volatility, and when you've got these suspected tanker attacks, that really does drive volatility back into it. So I'd say WTI possibly sub 50 if you didn't see these attacks, and Brent would have been sub 60.
Okay, Peter, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Appreciate you joining in and taking us through what you think happens with the crude from here. I just want to quickly highlight that I think Yes has slipped back to the day's low. It's down 10% on the cash price. I think it had spiked a little bit initially. Indiabulls, though, is holding on. It's about 680 or so on the stock. I mean, the June futures is what I'm referring to at this point. The Nifty is down 50, so there's not very much.
When Ravneet Gill took over, it was in January of 2019, and at that point, the stock price of Yes Bank was over 200 rupees per share. So from there, it's seen a significant fall. So Axis Bank got re-rated after there was that management change. But I guess for Yes Bank, the fundamental problems, the exposure to stress group is overwhelming the management change, and that stock has actually fallen even after the management change. It was at 210, 215 about, and now at 121. And when they raised money in 2017, the QIP, they'd raised, I think, 4,000 crore plus. The price was at 300 rupees per share. So all those people who bought, at that point have obviously, like many other shareholders, have lost a lot of money in Yes Bank.
No, I think, for confidence to return, although after the March quarter, they had declared that exposure to ADAC being 13,000 crore rupees, right? I mean, there's watch list, which included, I think, SR, two builders, there was ADAG and others. But I think now they'd have to disclose granular exposure. To which company exactly is this exposure? I mean, what is the collateral and things like that? Otherwise, we have the big numbers, and I think the management has come on air, a couple of weeks after the results have come through and defended their guidance for credit costs, etc., which is, I think, 125 basis points. But I think you need some granularity to go with the numbers and really take a call. And of course, on top of all of that, you need the money. The Bulls, I don't know if there are any left, but they at one point were saying, well, if they're able to replicate the Axis template.
Yeah, they get that PE money, the confidence money, put in a floor to the valuations, and then it'll be easier to do the QIP. But they've not managed to do that as of now, at least. So that's going to be a critical trigger for Yes Bank. Get into a break. On the other side, we'll shift focus to India's undelivered homes crisis with Manisha Natarajan and Vivek